if you want to know where you're going, you got to know where you started and where you want to be going. It's like a trip. It's like a voyage on the sea. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about my background and how I got to where I am and some of the things I had to learn so that you don't have to stumble and fall in the traps and some of the things that I did. My background. And I'm going to say that when I started out, I was, I'm going to back up to when I really started to put money into things. I've always been interested in real estate, even when I was 18 years old. I'm 50 something now. I read all the books, uh, and you know, no money down books and all that kind of stuff. I went to real estate seminars. I don't know if you call them seminars, but places where people gather. And I never really did anything. And a lot of the reason I never did anything was probably because I was scared. I didn't really trust the information that they were giving. And usually they were just trying to sell something. And they had a lot of things like, if you went out and I got a some sort of seminar or something, books on tape that I listened to, it said, go out and find somebody that's already successful, which is true, and go out and bird dog for them. That bird dogging is a way of finding. Hold on just a second. Bird dogging is a way of, you go out and find real estate deals for somebody, and then they'll give you a little kickback from it. And you know, that was for you to, it was an effort for you to go out there and you give something so that you can get something in return. And those were things that I thought about doing, but you know, I never really had anybody that helped me. They said, yeah, I'll do that. Go out and find something. Well, go get a bunch of business cards, put them around. I think I had somebody call me one time and they could tell I didn't know what I was doing, and it was embarrassing. And I ended up quitting that, and it just went on for years and years. So while it may be good, there's just some things that you need to do. I found that if you want to be in a group that's going somewhere and doing something, you have to pay. And I mean, some of these groups cost $8,000-$10,000, are way probably beyond the means of what most people can afford. Well, what a lot of people can afford. But once you have somebody put money into something, it changes the whole dynamics of the people that get involved, because the people that get involved are much more serious. What really happened was, if I go back to when I graduated from, when I was in college, I had a job. I read all those No Money Down books. This was back in the 80s, late 80s. And then after I got out of college, I went and I worked for, worked for a lab doing wastewater testing. And that was a job. It was okay. And then I quit and did that. I always kind of jumped back between doing sales and doing engineering type work. And kind of it's because with sales, you end up kind of you take a beating and you quit. But I think most of that comes down to is people having a dream. And when people have a dream, they want to learn something more and get out, and they're willing to do things they would not normally do and willing to learn. Sales is a profession, okay? And there's crummy salesmen and there's good salesmen. But in the long run, a person who is a professional salesman goes out and learns the art of sales. But anyway, so I ended up jumping back into, back in those days was programming. And I ended up getting a job at like Nortel, which is gone out of business. I worked at MCI, Nortel, and then kind of in the computer business. And what's interesting in MCI and Nortel is MCI didn't so much, but Nortel had a lot of engineers that were all into trading in the stock market. Or at least that's what they claimed. And it was all about their 401k and what they were going to do with it. And then when I got out of there, I met my wife, and her family had a pretty good business. And I had to sit down and figure out, what do wealthy people do with their money? Because what happens at some point when you're doing pretty well, you start to stockpile cash. And cash sitting around doing nothing is a depreciating commodity. I don't know if it's an asset or whatever it is, but you know, with inflation, and I'm going to give you something I call the junk food index. If you go back to the 10, 20 years ago, a candy bar might have cost, 50 cents, and then now then it became worth $1. And I think nowadays you buy a candy bar, it's like $1.80 or something like that. So you can kind of see that in the last 20 years, that the cost of a candy bar has tripled in value. I remember buying Coca-Colas, the 20 ounces for back at Nortel in the year 2000. I remember that you could buy them for $1. I remember it was under $1 because I remember when it went over $1, I was like, holy cow, they've gone up. And I thought, to pay $1 for this, I could do that. But $1.10, now I got to come out of my pocket with some change. Nowadays, when you go to some places, they want $1.80 for a Coca-Cola. So I can tell you that in the last 20 years, if you want to go with the junk drink index or something like that, the cost of inflation for that kind of thing has doubled. So what cost you $1 in 2000 for a drink now costs you approximately $2 for a drink. And if we're making $25 an hour, which is $50,000 a year, back then, which you figure, wow, that's pretty decent. That $25 an hour you need to be today to cover the same cost of time involved to buy that, you need to be making $50 an hour. So a $50,000 a year job nowadays has to be up to 100K, just based on what I call the Coca-Cola 20-ounce drink index. So what I discovered is that I had to start to figure out, what do you do with your money? Because your money is depreciating and you've got to make money work for you. As long as you're working at trading your time for money, people go out and spend it or they save it, and saving is better than spending, but it's what you do with your money that's important. And I said, what do wealthy people do with their money? And I said, they do two things. They trade the stock market, and they trade and they buy real estate. That was just me wondering what do they do with their money. So I set out myself to learn about the stock market and to learn about the real estate. That might have been, 20 years ago? No, it was actually 10 years ago. I kind of played in it a little bit. So this was back probably in 2010. And I started to look at the stock market and I started to look at real estate. Well, it was easy. I went down to Investors Business Daily, which is you can read their books, and they're fine books, and it tells you all about technical trading. And I learned that. But what really interested me at the time was options trading. And I asked the guy who said, "Well, what are you really interested in?" And he says, "I'm interested in options trading." Oh man, you don't want to do that. So you're always going to have people that are going to be turning you down and telling you don't want to do that. And you can lose your shirt. And so once you start asking those questions, you got to ask good questions. I did discover how to do that. Now, I'm not licensed I'm not licensed to give advice or anything like that, but I can give you where you can go and find out information. But I ended up paying to have a course, probably about $10,000, to learn how to options trade. And it was totally different. And it changed the way things would, and I changed the way things work and how I thought, because I got around people that were actually doing something. There's always people that are looking for, when it comes to markets, they come to some club and they're like, what's going on today? What should you tell me? People are actually doing something, kind of get sick and tired of those guys. The other thing was I wanted to do real estate. So that was the stock market. And then real estate. I've always been interested in those things. I remember playing as a kid, I played a game called Stock Market or something like that. And I remember reading all about real estate, played Monopoly. So when I was trying to when I was waiting in the car for my wife, I used to listen to a radio station. I ran across a company that teaches you how to do real estate. Now you got to be careful. There's so many, especially nowadays. Every joker out there is trying to teach you, oh, come and listen to my course on how to do real estate. And you want to go, they wanted you to, how can somebody from another state teach you about real estate in your own state? And let's just pick. There's so many people out in California, and they're like, oh, we're going to teach you everything about real estate. The laws in California are so different from Texas, it's where I live, that guy can't provide any information for you of any quality. And so what I ended up doing was I found somebody local that did that. And I mean, I really learned and understood how real estate works. And I started off, my intention at first was to just buy houses. And then I got into apartments. And I'm telling you, apartments is where it's at. But people come and go. And I remember them telling us that, people will come up with deals that you can get into. And they said, I've been around doing this for 30 something years, and somebody be nice today, and then they're a scumbag tomorrow. So you have to learn how to read people and watch people very carefully. I mean, when you first get in 1 year, I mean, I've seen people come and go from this business in real estate, and I'm thinking, wow, that person screwed a bunch of people. And, if you are the kind of person that has no integrity and you're into ripping people off and you're looking for the short-term gain, and you go out and do something, you're not going to be in the business very long because you get a bad reputation. People will move from one city to another to escape a reputation. And then there's so many egos. The one thing you got to watch out with all this stuff is ego. When somebody first starts out, their ego is in check. They're probably very humble. And I'm going to show this in real estate. When a person does a deal in real estate, right, they're very, very humble. They want to help people, and they want to do this. They want to do things right. And this goes across for business and everything. Because when you partner with somebody as a partner, you're not in the business. They're the ones working in the business. You're the one that's just providing the money. And what happens is these people get successful. The guys who are the leaders running the business, they may get successful. And they do 2 or 3 deals. They become more and more successful. And then what happens is they start to think that, look at all the things that I do. I'm worth much more. They don't do anything. All they're doing is providing the money. And I should get a bigger chunk and a bigger chunk and a bigger chunk. In fact, if you even go back, this goes back many, many years, this thought. Henry Ford had the Dodge brothers working for them in the automobile business. And I think the Dodge brothers had invested with the Ford Motor Company. And Henry Ford didn't want to pay out any dividends, because why should you pay dividends in a business to a person that doesn't do anything? And so he refused to pay out to these people that were investors, and he upset the investors. And so the Dodge brothers, DODG, they left Ford and they went and started Dodge. And if you go back and look at the history of this, you can see, I mean, that was something that I happened to watch on Netflix or something like that. And so this is just something that goes on and on and on. When people get successful, they start to get big egos. And when they get the big egos start to say, I'm worth much more, and I need to take a bigger chunk than you. So this is where people get into fight, families get into fights, people fight about money. And so those are the things you have to be careful when you're investing in a business, that you might invest with somebody once or twice, they're great. And then 3 or 4 times, their egos start to get out of whack. And then you just have to say, hey, I'm not investing with you anymore. The one thing I've noticed with people investing, and I'm just picking real estate because that's what I've invested in, is sometimes what people do in real estate is, and I've listened to the people who are running these deals, you sit around and talk with them, you become good friends, and you know more about their personal financial situation, and they know about yours more so than you do with your family sitting across from you at the Thanksgiving dinner table. And you start to listen to these people who are doing these deals, and I remember somebody saying that the person says, you know what, this is the kind of person that you want to invest with. They said that they were kept up at night because they were not worried so much about losing their own money, but they thought, how could they live with themselves if they lost their investors' money? And that's the person that you want to invest with. I also know another person who was running deals, and his business card had dice on it. Well, what does that say? You know, 2 dice like you're in, right? 2 dice like you're in Vegas. What does that say about that person? I mean, they may not have meant it, or do they? I mean, you got to take a look at those things. So, you know, and of course, when it comes to investing in the real estate, it's a very, very small community. You seem to know everybody, you know who's owned those deals, and you know who the scumbags are. You even get to know every single apartment in the area. And so when a deal comes up for sale, you're like, I already know what's wrong with it. You already know who the last 2 or 3 owners were. And here, especially in Texas, you know, with Texas, you get local owners and then you get out-of-state owners. And a lot of people are coming from places like California, pumping their money into it. And you know they're buying the deal, and they're willing to overpay. Sometimes you have to step back and say, I'm not willing, I can't participate in the market because people from outside the state, and this is foolish money, dumb money that's chasing after deals. So you just have to just step back and wait for the right deal. And you wait for the economy to maybe have a hiccup, and you're prepared for that. But the first thing you have to do is prepare. You have to prepare for the time when you become successful. Because if you're buying stuff that maybe isn't that great of a deal, or I'm not saying a great a deal. Remember somebody said there's always a deal somewhere in that. You got to figure out how to make it work. But sometimes the economy's, I'm not saying the economy, but everything's way out of whack. And you got to look at that. And sometimes it's better to, it's cyclical. So you got to figure where in the cyclical part of the trend is the business. But so this is what I ended up doing is I started looking at stock market and real estate. And the hard thing, they always say it takes money to make money. Well, that's true. I mean, a person with money has a much greater advantage. But the most important thing is for you to prepare and put a little bit of money aside to prepare for the day when you can do that. There are places that you can go within your city to learn. I'm just thinking like, you know, the Apartment Association of Greater Dallas, fantastic organization. And to belong, you have to own apartments or houses to belong. And it's based on how many units that you own or doors, as we put it in the industry. So you can go in there and learn and volunteer. The other thing, and I'm going to put even this. You've got to get out of the job mentality. Job mentality means I don't want to give up any of my time. You're going to have to pay me. The job mentality is you're going to miss so many opportunities. When I got into buying houses, I could have paid I did pay to get in to learn how to do it, but you know, why would anybody, you know, when I got into to fixing up houses and I did swing the hammer. They say if you swing the hammer, you're losing money, but that's just the way I am. And you have to do that sometimes and get out of doing that. I would suggest don't swing the hammer. Understand everything about what you're doing. Don't do the work. Work on your business. Don't work in your business. So when you learn how to do those things, who's going to pay you if you don't know how to do it? Who's going to pay you to do some drywall? Who's going to pay you? A person, you got no skills. The reason I learned was I went out and bought a house. If I had a job mentality, I would have, what do I pay myself? You know, one time I wanted to hire, you know, I've had people like, hey, some people want to learn how to do something, but then I want to get paid to do it. Oh, well, forget it. I'm not paying you. Right? Once you learn how to do something, then you become valuable. So you got to get out of the job mentality. You got to kind of go and volunteer to do stuff. Volunteer to help. You know, I'm not saying that go into a place and do everything for free, but you have to be willing to trade. If you don't have the money, to trade some hours to trade to learn. There are people out there that are willing to teach and mentor and help you learn how things work. But, you know, they're not going to pay you to do it because what value does that have? Right? So you have to get out of the job mentality, right? And get into a business mentality. Get into a business mentality. You know, trading hours for dollars. If you're trading hours for dollars, you better be providing some sort of value. I think one of the things that people who don't understand, that they think that if they graduate, and now I have a college degree, but there seems to be a mentality out of there that once you graduate from college with your college degree, you know, what's the saying? Go out and get a good education and get a good job. And a good job. What they don't tell you is you have to be productive. You have to be productive. If they're paying you, I know people that graduate, I'm worth $100,000. Well, if you go work at a job and you're getting paid $100,000 plus the cost of the desk and all that stuff, I don't know what it is, and then they're all the benefits they give you. Maybe it's $200,000. Are you providing even $200,000 worth of value? Are you providing 200 at least to keep your job? You should at least, if you're costing you $100,000, $200,000, you need to provide $1 more than what it costs. Otherwise, what's the point in them keeping you? I've seen so many people that go out, they get an education, they go and try and get a job, they may not last, and then they're like, that doesn't work, and they go back to school and get some more education, change careers. You have to be productive. And I'll give you an example. This is why you can't have the job mentality in this. Let's say I'm redoing a bathroom, and the cost to redo a bathroom is to change out the showers and the tile and gut it. Maybe it's $5,000, $2,000, $3,000. You know, they charge you $5,000 to $10,000 to do a bathroom remodel, right? So they probably is double of. So I mean, with the stuff that I was doing for rent houses, you can do it for a couple $1,000s. And so that couple $1,000, if I hired somebody or paid somebody to come in and I paid them $100 a day. It takes them 3 days to do it, right? Or 4 days to do it. And it's a $1,500 job, and I'm charging them $150 a day, or let's say $150 a day to work, and they get it done in 3 days. That means 150 times 3 is $450. The cost of value is $1,500, right? 3,000. Let's just say $1,500, right? To put that back together. Let's say that that person wanted $1,000 a day, and it took them 4 days to do it. That's $4,000, but it only increases the value of the house with the work by $3,000. I'm losing $1,000 to this person because they want too much money, and maybe there's like, if this person can do it, usually they charge by the day or they charge by the job. So am I getting my value out of there? So when these guys charge by the job, a lot of times the people they bring in, they're hourly guys, but you got to see that, is it productive? Is it making me money? I've seen a lot of times in doing this business, even when times get rough, a lot of the guys, they're very, very good to their people. They may not even be making money or breaking even, but they want to keep their guys working, because if the guys lose their guys, they'll go work somewhere else. But in the long run, you have to be productive, and you have to get out of the job mentality, especially when you're trying to learn. Okay? So let me go back over here and look. We started out talking about my background. So my background was that I got into doing the real estate, and I ended up buying real estate. And you learn how to double your money. I learned about the law of doubling your money. I learned to get around people that really understood what they were doing. When you buy property, I know how I can look at property and tell you if it's worth or good deal or not. I've seen properties that have sold. I don't know how they're going to make money. And a lot of people are buying properties because the market is in an upward trend. So they're kind of speculating. Speculating is when you buy something that has value, and the value of what you buy it for, and hopefully after you fix it and turn it, the market has ridden up, and so you make money. Well, what happens when the money when the economy turns? You make your money when you get into the deal. Right now, anybody can make money. Anybody can make money in an upward trending market. So that's what I did, was I learned about those two things. I'm talking a little bit about the real estate market, stock market. Now, the other thing is you've got to be open-minded. You have to be open-minded. I'm a very skeptical person, and that's held me back. I'm not saying you jump into everything, but you have to be open-minded and look at everything. I'm always willing to look at a deal, look at a business, look at something to see if it's good for me. And I've done real estate. I'm doing real estate. I do the stock market, because those are passive deals to get in. I've even doing insurance. The insurance business is unbelievable. The amount of money that people can make in doing that. I mean, and you know what? Even if you don't do anything, the amount of knowledge that you're going to get, everything you need to do, you need to learn. I've learned more about the different financial instruments out there through what I'm doing, because I was open-minded. Most people, they want to go to work, do what they do, and come home. Nothing wrong with that, right? There's nothing wrong with going to work and coming home. But what you do afterwards is where you're going to make your wealth. And while you're working, you're going to go ahead and you're going to learn all about the other ways that you can make money. because you know what? You can make a lot of, I've seen this too. I've seen people make so much money, 2 incomes, 6-figure incomes, big house, driving 2 expensive Mercedes or BMWs or whatever it is. They don't have a penny in the bank. These are usually kids who got out of college, you know, they're 25, 26. They got their first job, 2 6-figure incomes. And guess what? One of them gets laid off. They're in bankruptcy. When the times are good, you got to learn how to put your money away for a rainy day. Because I'm telling you, winter is coming. That's a terminology. A rainy day is coming. I don't care how good you got it now, the rainy day is coming. And you know what? When the tide goes out, as Warren Buffett says, you're going to see who's not wearing any swimsuit. And the tide will go out. And it'll come back in. And in this real estate industry, what you're going to see is everybody in there, just because in Texas you can put up 1 piece of drywall or you can put down 1 piece of tile, that all of a sudden you're an expert in drywall and tile. And these guys are out there bidding businesses. And then when times get bad, bam, they're out of business. And it's very cyclical how this works. But you got to turn around and learn, and you've got to be open-minded. Look at anything. Right? You never know what's going to come at you. And you never know who you're going to meet. I'm not the most outgoing guy. It's easier for me to stay home and not do anything. My wife is the outgoing person. She likes to go out and do stuff. Once I'm out, I'm okay. But getting out there for me, I can stay home. I like doing this. In fact, I love people. It's just that I'm not the most outgoing person. I love to teach. That's something or speak my mind, I guess you could say. But I'm always willing to look at anything. Books on tape, read books, right? I remember somebody said something very interesting one time. If you're out of work, say you got a position where you're out of work, learn a skill that you couldn't normally learn. Learn a new skill. If you're not working, go volunteer. I'll tell you, if you go down and you serve food to the homeless, you're going to learn how good you've got it. You know, United States, we've got it so good here. I mean, the 90-something%, most of the world lives on under $2.50 per day. Even the poorest of the poor here in the United States, they can still go into an air-conditioned bar, watch cable TV, and eat free peanuts in air conditioning. That's in a first world America. You can't do that in most of the world. So even the poor of the poorest have so much more than the rest of the world does. I lived with my wife in Vietnam for a year, and I've seen diseases. I thought people were poor, but in front of the Buddhist temple downtown, every day people come in and they sit down and they got leprosy. Till you've seen somebody that has no fingers. I mean, I'm talking like this kind of stuff. They're blind. I've seen these people leprosy. They're blind, no nose, no fingers. They can't see anything. I mean, what can a person like that do? And there's nothing over there to take care of them. They have to go and live off. They're beg. And to me, I don't have a problem with giving to someone that's in that sort of a condition. But there's some people that have so much more. I felt led to give. I've had people when I was living over there that they'd walk up to me and ask for some money, and I look at them and they're wearing $100 pair of jeans. You gotta learn to watch people and see what they're doing. Even people who are mentally handicapped. I saw a family one time down in an area of town, and they had a son that had Down syndrome, and that kid worked. He did it whatever he could to help that family. They had a store, and that kid was taking food. Go get us some food from the place across the street to bring back to eat. And he was taking dishes back and forth. Everybody over there has to work and has something to help provide for the family. Even they're seeing delivery guys over there riding motorcycles that are missing a leg, right? And they will modify that bike if they can, maybe make it into a 3-wheel bike. And so they do deliveries, because guess what? There's nothing over there for them to fall back on. So here in the United States, we've got so much opportunity. And, so no matter where you are, you just have, and listen, not everybody starts out at the same spot. Some people are born with a silver spoon in their hand, okay? And some people aren't. Well, we were born in the United States, and so it's that is by and far is winning the lottery for where to be born. Just being born is winning the lottery, but to be born in the United States and to grow up here and to have an opportunity to do something, yes, some people are going to have more trouble than others, but you can't give up. You got to have a dream. And you're going to have setbacks. I mean, it's hard when you say somebody, what was it, Ray Kroc? Everybody knows who Ray Kroc is? If you don't, he was the person who went around and started McDonald's. He didn't start McDonald's, but he took the idea and the concept of franchising and went around and sold it. And he was 52 and broke when he started doing that. Right? What about Colonel Sanders? Broke at 65. He was 65 when he went out and started to try and sell his recipe for Kentucky Fried Chicken. These are the people that you need to mentor and understand and read what they're all about. These are the guys that have a dream. How many people at 65 give up? Colonel Sanders was 65 and had nothing. I believe the first Kentucky Fried Chicken, after he went to all these places that decided to sell his recipe, was in Utah, right? I think I've visited there because I remember somebody pointing out that was the first Kentucky Fried Chicken. How many hundreds of places did he stop by and got a no? So this is learn a new skill, even if it means going out and learning how to fly, pilot. If you got nothing to do, you can volunteer, learn a language, right? These are all things that you can do if you got some time in your hand, even if you're laid off, because you know what? This keeps you out there. Go out. When I got laid off and lost my job at Nortel, I didn't want to sit at home. I went out and I had a friend and I just sat at his store and watched his store for him. And you wouldn't believe the people that I met. Sent me off in a whole new direction. So you never know where volunteering, where that might lead you to, who you'll learn about, and who you might get. The people across the street, the people across the street from or across the hall where I was working at, the different store, I got to meet them. Wonderful people, been in business. And you get around those people and they're going to open your mind and teach you. The one thing is, if you're a kid, if nothing wrong with being a blue collar worker. In fact, I'll tell you that being plumbers and electricians can make a lot of money. And I've been in that line, and not in that line of work, but I watch the work that those guys do. But typically, if a person grows up and they're a kid and their parents are truck drivers or electrician or plumbers or doctor, that's typically what they're going to follow in their footsteps. Not because they want to, but that's what they're familiar with. Say that again, that's what they're familiar with. And it's up to me with the younger kids that I, with my nephew and stuff, is to help try and broaden his horizons and scope. Maybe you have no one that can help you do that. It's up to you to broaden your horizons. It's up to you to broaden your horizon. Right? It's up to you to broaden your horizons. In the ultimate, it's up to you to take care of your own business. Maybe you're young, maybe you're old, but these are the things that you have to do. And sometimes when you're out of work, and especially, I can't say for women, but with men, they wrap up who they are and their identity by what they do for work. And if they're out of work, they have a sense where they have no value. And when a person's changing careers, they're like, what value do I have? Go out and volunteer. Go learn something. You never know who you're going to meet. It's amazing. So anyway, I just wanted to cover that. And I guess we got talking kind of long tonight, but that gives you a little bit about who I am and kind of where I came from, right? So it's up to you to go ahead and change your life. It's up to you to go out and find the people. Nobody's going to come knocking on your door to do that. So anyway, have a great evening.